Hello and welcome to Balanced Existence, a place for like-minded and open-minded individuals seeking to better themselves spiritually, emotionally, mentally, or physically. I'm so happy to be here with you. I haven't been recording as much, but I'm definitely at least doing it on a weekly basis. And I haven't not been recording because I don't have anything to say or any downloads. I've definitely been feeling a lot coming through. And I almost kind of felt like there was so much coming through. It was almost like bottlenecking, like in a funnel. And I didn't know where to begin or like how to start. And I also felt like I really wanted to pull tarot cards. But I didn't know if I should start with some of my recent downloads that I journaled about or if I should go right into the tarot. So I decided today to pull some tarot, which completely showed me where we need to take this reading. So I've already pulled 3 cards, which is the 8 of Pentacles, the 3 of Pentacles, and the 5 of Pentacles, which I think it's just crazy that we got all Pentacles to start us off. And so I know exactly what... it's just amazing how like the tarot cards will kind of point you in the direction that we're meant to go. So I'm super grateful for that, and I'm super happy to be back. So I want to jump right into this channeled collective reading. So what I'm getting here is the 8 of Pentacles and 3 of Pentacles being very similar cards in terms of, you know, that kind of apprenticeship or mastery or learning of a certain skill. So there may be some project or even just your general career that you've been really dedicated to or prioritizing in your life. But then with the 5 of Pentacles, there may be a point at which you feel like this sense of being discouraged. And I want to channel more into this because, you know, this is not the end of the story by any means. And I think one thing that I wanted to bring up as it relates to some of the recent downloads I've been getting is this concept of feeling like we're stuck or feeling like we're stagnant. And, you know, maybe you're feeling, maybe even on a more, on a deeper personal level, you're feeling isolated or rejected, and there's like these kind of negative emotions like swirling around what was supposed to be this really positive, you know, focused experience with the 8 and 3 of Pentacles, that feeling of, you know, like the dedication and like the commitment to developing your skill. And of course, with the 3 of Pentacles, like maybe even like the collaboration with others and the teamwork required to make that happen. So, you know, there may be like a new project you're working on, whether it's solo, whether it's like a side kind of project, or whether it's at your job as part of your career with other people that you may have felt really encouraged or inspired or motivated to do, but then there's been some kind of shift where you're starting to feel kind of like this hopeless energy. And so this recent download that I got was that what you're feeling in any given moment of time is so temporary, and it's such a blip in terms of the greater life experience and the bigger picture of things. And so when you feel like hopeless, or when you feel like, and when this hopeless feeling persists over time to the point where you start to feel that stagnant or stuck or even stopped feeling, although it's hard to recognize this, you know, when you're in that kind of spiral of negative emotions, the message here is that as real as it feels, and it is real, like we are here on this earth to experience the full range of human emotions, and feeling rejected and feeling hopeless is very much a real experience, but it is temporary. And if that's the one thing you can take away and allow it to offer you just a glimmer of optimism and comfort, it's like, imagine when you take a deep breath in and then there's like that pause before you exhale, or, the pause after the exhale right before you're about to inhale. We don't really think of those pauses, or when we think about breathing, we don't really think of the pause. Like, we don't identify breathing with the pause. When someone says, what is it like to breathe? You think, yeah, it's like inhaling and exhaling. You don't really say, oh, it's the inhale, but then sometimes there's like a pause, or there's always a pause in between, and then there's a pause after the exhale in between. Like, no one really explains breathing to be like that, right? So it's kind of interesting that in life, when we go through these stagnant moments, we start to feel like maybe we identify ourselves as being stuck or as being stagnant, when that's not necessarily our identity, and it's such a temporary part of the greater picture of breathing, if we're using this analogy, right? Like, when we think about breathing, we think about inhaling and exhaling. We don't think about those pauses. We don't think about those moments where we're out of breath, right? Like, we just think, okay, we breathe in and we breathe out, and that's the smooth flow of breathing, right? So, and it's not to say that there is no pause, or that there aren't moments where we are out of breath, or, in this analogy, but it's not the identity of the experience, if that makes sense. So, another picture that comes to mind, and yeah, we're getting the 9 of Swords. So there's definitely this kind of feeling of that anxiety, or, feeling like we're stuck or we're spiraling, feeling fear of our situation. And we're also getting the 5 of Wands and the Knight of Wands. So yeah, so this is what I was going to say about this other picture that I'm getting, which is that, with the 5 of Wands, we could be dealing with some kind of conflict or struggle, which it may not be, a super hostile or negative or aggressive experience. It could just be like working with different or difficult personalities. Like, if this is like a career project, or, any project, we've got the 3 of Pentacles here. So like any project where you're having to collaborate with others, there could be some kind of differences in personality, or, kind of conflicts that need to be resolved. And, this could be like friendly competition, but it could also be like, that kind of competition that encourages you to be better. So this could definitely be like constructive. But regardless, we're, in total, we're kind of dealing with this energy with the 5 of Pentacles and the 5 of Wands, of like feeling stuck, feeling hopeless, feeling like we're having to work through some kind of challenge, right? And so this picture that I'm getting is like, so we use the analogy of breathing, right? Like breathing being this analogy for, the ebb and flow of life, and how inhaling and exhaling is that kind of flowing period. But, there are pauses in between the breath, and there are moments where things seem to kind of slow down. And what I'm also getting is this concept of like, it's kind of like a interesting random picture, but like, imagine like, those tube slides at like those indoor playgrounds. Imagine having like a giant stuffed animal, like a giant stuffed bear or something, and you're trying to push it down like a tiny little tube slide, right? And once you kind of get it going, it slides down, it comes out the other end, and we're using this slide as an analogy for like this great transformation, right? This portal to maybe a new timeline. But there is a point at which it seems stuck, or maybe it even seems like it's not going to fit through the slide. But it just needs a little bit of a force, right? So just like we use the pause before an inhale as that period of what may seem like stagnant, but it's all just part of the normal process of inhaling and exhaling, we can also use this moment that you have to kind of push something through. So it may be kind of a tight squeeze or seems like it's a little stuck, but it really just takes a little bit of a force, and then you can easily push it through, right? So I'm going to take it a little more quantum now. And if you were to slow down time and focus in on that second or millisecond of time and force that it would take to kind of wiggle this stuffed animal down the slide, this giant stuffed bear, it may seem like when you focus in on that second that it was stuck or even completely stopped and just completely stagnant, doesn't fit, is not going to move. But this is not the moment we want to identify with. We don't want to identify our journey or even ourselves with this moment of pause, right? Because ultimately, we're going to make it to the other side of the slide, to the other side of the portal. We're going to jump timelines. We're going to get there. We're going to breathe in. We're going to breathe out. Like, that's part of the big picture of our journey. So, because outside of time and space, on the energetic realm, which is where pure consciousness and creator energy exists, it operates outside of time and space. So outside of time and space, we are always transforming and changing, and the rates at which we do that is always changing. Sometimes it seems faster, sometimes it seems slower, but like fast, slow, and time are only like physical world concepts, right? I mean, on the energetic realm, we're infinite in nature. We're just constantly moving through different energies. Our feelings are changing. It's like our souls kind of encompass everything, right? It's just in the physical realm, do we experience time, and do we experience the duality of like, okay, this is moving fast, this is moving slow. So that's why it's important to not kind of identify with where we're at in one moment of time. And this is also, so with the Knight of Wands coming in, we're really getting that push of energy, right? That fiery, passionate energy that's going to kind of push us through to that other side. And like there may be, like if you're listening to this reading, you may be at any given part of this journey, right? Of this archetypal kind of journey that we're outlining here through the cards and through these downloads I've gotten, right? This concept of feeling stuck and then making your way out of it. We're all at some point of that journey, right? So whether you're feeling stuck or you're feeling like you're just about to come through, or whether maybe you are coming through on the other side, you're just starting to pick up momentum, or maybe you're at a time right now where your momentum is really fast, and you can look back and recognize how you were stuck maybe a few months or a few years ago, right? Like however you choose to resonate with this reading and, perceive it to relate to you. So wherever you're at in that journey, the message here is intended to show you that one is the power of perception, and two is, this idea that everything is temporary. And so, if you can recognize that you have the power to choose your perception, to choose how you perceive the world, and to dictate your reality, then whatever external circumstances and experiences you're faced with, you then recognize, okay, I have the power of perception, and I have the self-awareness and knowledge to know that it's temporary. So there's really nothing you need to experience externally in order to feel that complete fulfillment, at least in the spiritual way. Of course, there are external experiences that we'd like to have for egoic fulfillment. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's part of being, a human. But, there's this concept of like, in every stage of your journey and in every moment, you always have that power, that freedom. That Knight of Wands is that like freedom energy. And even if you're not feeling that fiery, passion, energetic, fast moving energy, you can still embody that feeling of freedom, that feeling of remembering, that remembrance that you get to choose your perception, right? Do you choose to identify your story with the part where you had to push really hard and it felt really stagnant and it felt like you were stuck? Or, do you choose to identify breathing as the part where you're just pausing in between breaths? Or do you choose to describe and feel breathing to be the part where you inhale and exhale and you're in this flow and that gives you life, right? Do you choose to see your journey as sliding down the slide, coming out the other end, jumping into that, jumping through that portal into that next timeline? Like, how are you perceiving? Because however you are, that's what's going to dictate your reality. So, and then of course, we have the Empress here. So this is that creator power. It's the power of creation, and especially that feminine energy, which is in that flow that we were talking about, that intuitive flow, so whether this is like career or projects, or it could literally be a family and fertility for you. But if this is career or projects, like this Empress energy is that ability to grow and have, new beginnings in these projects. And so, if you're stuck, you're going to come out the other end. And you could be, listening to this at any time in your journey and the message stands, right? Like if you recognize that this is a temporary experience and you remember that you have the power of perception, then really you are tapping into that manifestational power, that creator, not just creative power, but that creator power. So you're not just a victim of your life experience. You're not just some fly on the wall of your life. You have real manifestational power if you can remember the power of perception and the awareness that everything is temporary. So I'm going to leave this reading here for you. Thank you so much for listening. If it resonated, I'd love to hear from you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.